The end of the legislative session brings a new state budget with millions in budget cuts. We'll hear from legislative leaders on both sides. Plus, Senator Jim Banks faces our questions about budget cuts at the federal level. And we talk with former Senator Joe Donnelly about the passing of Pope Francis. Now on this week's edition of In Focus.
We have a lot of transparency and accountability in this budget, and it's responsible. So for that, I ask for your support.
This budget is what happens when you prioritize political gains over public good, and when you centralize power instead of protecting people.
Machines closed. Clerk will tally the roll. 39 ayes, 11 noes. This report has passed. The Secretary will inform the House of the passage of the report.
And that's how this year's legislative session came to a close as lawmakers worked late into the night at the State House to finish this year's session with millions in budget cuts in the new two-year budget and a new cigarette tax to help make up for a projected $2.4 billion revenue shortfall. State House reporter Hannah Adamson has details.
At 1:38 a.m. on Friday, the Senate adjourned sine die, officially ending the 2025 legislative session in Indiana. The updated budget proposal includes a 5% cut to higher ed. Keep in mind, in the last budget cycle, higher ed funding dropped by 1%. Public health dollars also going down from $100 million to $40 million each year. However, lawmakers say the FSSA, DOC, and DCS will be fully funded, and school choice vouchers will become universal starting in year 2. Arguably the biggest news of the hour, an increase to the state's cigarette tax, up from $1 to $2 per pack. This is something that many House Republicans had wanted to do for quite some time. In fact, Indiana House Speaker Todd Huston has voted to increase the cigarette tax multiple times. Lawmakers say this change will bring in $380 million per year in the biennium, so roughly $800 million total. In addition, all tobacco products will face a similar tax hike, bringing in an additional $50 million in the next 2 years.
There is no program that's going to be better than raising tobacco taxes to diminish people from using those types of products and helping Indiana be healthier. So we feel like those two things kind of combine.
The biggest takeaway should be that we are fiscally responsible even when it's really hard to do.
There were wins. There were definitely a few wins. But the disappointment of missed opportunities in this budget. And really, when we think about who we balanced the budget on the backs of, it is our hard-working families of Indiana.
The budget bill now heads to the governor's desk. In a statement, Governor Braun says he's proud of the progress made during his first session as governor. He says he hopes to build on this kind of momentum for years ahead. Reporting from the Indiana State House, I'm Hannah Adamson.
Hannah, thank you. Meantime, an 11th hour item in the state budget has been somewhat controversial and gives Governor Braun total control over selecting the Board of Trustees at Indiana University. The governor's office already has a select number of appointments on that board. A section of the budget added in the final conference committee report allows him to at any time replace any member who was previously elected by IU alumni. Governor Braun says he doesn't believe the current process of selecting trustees was working for IU.
From curriculum to cost to the whole way, one of our flagship universities has been operating. So I want to get a board there that is going to be maybe a little more rounded, that's going to produce better results.
The positions are currently elected by IU alums like State Senator Fadi Kaddoura, who believes this new item amounts to what he calls a, quote, political takeover.
I'm very concerned that these types of political moves will politicize our state higher educational institutions. I fully understand that the state has a role to play, and the governor already has appointments, but to take full control of the university's board, to me, makes me nervous and makes me question what is the intent behind this political move.
The measure will only give the governor this power until 2028, right as his first term is ending. Now, in addition to closely watching the final hours of session, Governor Braun also moved forward this week with his plans for an audit of the Indiana Economic Development Corporation.
When you've got irregularities, or if it goes beyond just that, That'll all have to stand the consequences of what a thorough audit will generate.
They did not present the companies' names, the deals of the contracts, the details, the abatements that will be offered by the locals, and they just showed up to the budget committee and asked for literally hundreds of millions of dollars over the course of the last 2 years.
We've got more reaction to that discussion on our website. Now, this week we also spoke with Indiana Senator Jim Banks about the notion that federal uncertainty could be to blame for some of these state budget cuts, something state forecasters cited in that recent revenue forecast. Our Russ McQuaid spoke with Senator Banks this past week about the uncertainty the president's tariffs have been causing and why Senator Banks thinks it will all work out well in the end.
I contend to you that nowhere in the country will benefit better from that than the #1 manufacturing state in the country, the great state of Indiana, where we're going to have rebuild that made in America economy. It's going to happen right here in the crossroads of America.
So do you disagree with the governor's administration's assessment that it's?
I haven't seen Governor Braun blame President Trump for that announcement.
The forecast says it's the uncertainty.
Show it to me. I haven't seen that. So if you're telling me that Governor Braun is blaming Donald Trump for a shortfall, I'm not buying it. I'm not buying it.
Fund revenue forecast.
Sir, we got time. Yeah, I don't think that's what it says. I don't think Governor Braun is blaming Donald Trump for the
economy mirrored issues at the national level. Combination of economic performance through the first quarter and expectations of federal policy actions drive the outlook through the biennium.
Yeah, I don't believe that Governor Braun. I believe you're wrong about that. Governor Braun is not blaming Donald Trump for budget shortfalls in the state. In fact, Governor, I'm on my way to go meet Governor Braun right now and talk about the ways that we can work better together between the federal and state level. And Governor Braun is bringing a fiscally conservative approach to the state of Indiana and cutting wasteful spending at the state level, just like we're focused on doing in Washington, D.C., and I commend him for that.
All right, now Senator Banks was here in town for a visit to the VA hospital in downtown Indianapolis, where patients have also had questions about potential budget cuts and what that could mean for our veterans. Once again, here's Russ McQuaid.
The Roudebush Medical Center has been serving America's veterans since 1932. Every year it's estimated some 70,000 veterans and their dependents depend on Roudebush for medical care. But in an era of DOGE budget cuts, there's concern of whether or not that level of care will continue. When young Hoosiers raise their hands and join the military, promising to protect their country.
Congratulations.
They are entering into a deal with their fellow citizens that America will be there long after their tours of duty end.
Military service is hard. We ask a lot of men and women who volunteer to serve, and so having a resource like the VA available to them, I think, is key, not only to helping encourage people to join the military, but also to keep that promise that President Lincoln made to care for those who have borne the battle and for their widow.
Roudebush is a 5-star hospital, and after a walk through and talk with the medical center administration, U.S. Senator Jim Banks says that commitment to excellence shall not waver.
Veterans in this state know that our VA is top-notch.
But with President Trump's VA Secretary Doug Collins promising to eliminate 80,000 jobs, 17% of the administration's workforce, I asked Senator Banks if he could guarantee Indianapolis veterans' health and medical care won't be compromised.
Wasteful bureaucracy in any department of the federal government is taking away money that could otherwise go to caring for our veterans. I'm so glad, though, that Director Collins has cut a lot of DEI programs and wokeness that has saved $17 million in the VA already.
Serving on the Senate Armed Services Committee, Banks promised the federal government will spend the money to study replacing the Roudebush Medical Center.
The big news that's going on here at the Roudebush Medical Center are the plans for the $2 billion replacement hospital over the next, we hope it'll be built and online sometime in the next 10 years, hopefully sooner.
Russ McQuaid reporting there. Russ, thank you. Meantime, Pope Francis is being laid to rest this weekend, with remembrances taking place here in Indiana and around the world. The Pope was 88 years old and is being remembered this week by leaders here and in the nation's capital.
He was a good man, worked hard, he loved the world.
In a statement, Mike Pence said Karen and I were saddened to learn of the passing of Pope Francis and send our deepest sympathies to Catholics all around the world and all who cherish this good and godly man. He said the time we spent with His Holiness at the Vatican was one of the greatest honors of his life. This week, our Rafael Sanchez spoke with former Indiana Senator and former ambassador to the Vatican, Joe Donnelly, to get his reflections on the life and legacy of Pope Francis.
May rejoice forever at the banquet table of heaven.
A somber moment for Hoosier Catholics. This was Mass at St. John the Evangelist Church near Lucas Oil Stadium. People remembered and reflected on the life and legacy of Pope Francis, the man who led the church for 12 years until his death at the age of 88.
I felt it was very important to come to a Mass today to celebrate his life, but also to pray for the repose of his soul.
Jorge Mario Bergoglio was one of 5 children. He was ordained as a priest in Argentina in 1969, named Cardinal in 2001, and in March of 2013, he became the church's 266th pope.
Pope Francis was a visionary pope. He brought the church back to the basic meaning of Jesus, which is to care for the poor, to help one another.
Joe Donnelly met with the Pope as ambassador to the Holy See under former President Biden from 2022 through 2024. Donnelly, who also served as Indiana's U.S. Senator, recalls his last conversation with Pope Francis.
America has so much good to offer the whole world, and that he hoped that we could continue to do that, is to share the gifts we have to try to help those who are less fortunate.
The Pope took on the name Francis from St. Francis of Assisi, known for his simplicity and for his commitment to working with people considered outcasts, qualities embraced by his faithful.
And then also, Rafael, that he loved Argentine soccer. He loved to listen, believe it or not, he loved to listen to the tango. I don't think he danced to it at this point, but he listened to the tango and had a wonderful laugh that you never hear too much in public, but behind the scenes, he loved a good joke.
Now the Universal Church will conduct one of the biggest job searches of the year as people from around the world pray for the sacred selection.
And that was our Rafael Sanchez reporting. Coming up next, we'll talk with our panel about this new state budget and the end of the legislative session. And later, why school board candidates will now run for office with a political party after a new bill that just passed at the end of session. Stick around.